Wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining us. I would love to introduce myself to begin with. My name is James Chang. I am director of the Duck Career Network here at the University of Oregon Alumni Association. Behind the scenes with me is my colleague Michael Smith, who's assistant director for alumni relations focused on chapter programs. And on behalf of the UOAA, thank you so much for joining us for this exciting webinar today. As you can see, on your screen, you may also be able to see our featured guest today, David Ecker from the class of 2009. David is a great representative for us today for many, many reasons. The first of which is to share his insight about what it's like to work inside LinkedIn and all that he's learned about how recruiters are using LinkedIn to find top talent. And hopefully this will be information that will be helpful for you as you are planning for your current and future career success. I just want to take a quick moment to at least introduce my program, the Duck Career Network. This is a program within the UOAA that is focused on supporting the career successes of all ducks, but specifically with a focus of ducks helping ducks. And that's why David is a perfect representative for us today. He's an alum who's taking time out of his busy life to share what he has learned through his own personal experience and through his work experience for the benefit of other ducks. Beyond webinars, the Duck Career Network also hosts regional speakers panels, as well as networking events both in person and online. So if you have other questions, I hope you go to our website and learn more. And if you have any questions, do let me know. Also, before we go into the discussion in the next few minutes, I would love to thank the members of the University of Oregon Alumni Association. These are alums who say more than just that they love the U of O and love the Ducks, but they want to be part of our success. And so members are given access to great information about what our faculty are doing, what students are doing, in addition to being our best champions and cheerleaders, ambassadors and advocates. They also are in it with us to help to make the University of Oregon stronger. So thank you all for being members. And if you're not yet a member, please feel free to join us. You can go to our website, ualumni.com/join. So with that, let me just give a quick preview of our program today. We will start with me having a discussion with David. After that, we will then continue with a portion on this webinar with Q&A. Most of you who are looking on a desktop should see a chat or Q&A section where you can enter questions. My colleague Mike will be tallying those questions and giving them to me roughly about 12:30 our time, 12:35, so that we have at least maybe 10 minutes or so to answer your specific questions. After that, we will then close this platform and encourage people to move on to the next platform, which is the virtual networking hour. During that time, you'll be able to sign up for one-on-one instant messaging chats with David to ask him whatever you wish in 6-minute increments. If you don't have enough time to ask everything, I encourage you to exchange emails so that you can follow up afterwards. But in addition to talking one-on-one or chatting one-on-one via IM with David, you'll also have the ability to IM chat with other attendees of this program. Everyone who's on today are probably interested in networking, in social networking, in LinkedIn, in growing your own personal and professional network. And what better way to do that than with a Ducks? So when we're done with this program, a website will automatically pop up on your screen so that you can move on to that platform. If you have not yet registered onto that platform, no worries, you can do so right away, and you'll be able to add yourself into the event pretty much instantaneously. So with that, again, thank you all so much for joining us. I know there are viewers from all over the country, and I've corresponded with some of our alums internationally who are watching in their respective time zones. So again, thank you so much for joining us in your early morning or maybe late at night even. So with that, I would love to do a quick introduction of David Ecker. He's someone that I have gotten to know over the last several, know especially well over the last several weeks. I was able to see him in person when I visited San Francisco. He attended a couple of our alumni events. But I also want to say a huge thank you to him because I think it was about a little over a year ago when he was an attendee of one of the webinars, and via the feedback form, he actually said, "I love to help. You know, I love to share my experience. I love to help other ducks." So again, I can't thank you enough for stepping up to the plate and being part of our engaged community, David.
Yeah, good to do it.
So with that, I'd love to just maybe pass the ball to you. If you could just start by introducing yourself a little bit, you know, where you grew up and how you chose U of O. I'm sure people would love to know a little bit more about your background.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having me. Really glad to be here. My name is David Ecker. I graduated, I guess, officially in 2009. I walked in 2008. I had to take a small class in the summer there to pass and to finish. But I'm from the East Bay area here in California, like Alamo, Danville area. I grew up there, and then I found U of O through probably a similar story to a lot of folks these days, but through the football program. I started watching college football when I was, you know, probably in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Started to get to know the program through Joey Harrington and Keenan Howery and those guys. And from that point on, they kind of stuck with me, but I didn't really have any interest further than that until, obviously, you know, high school came around and I started getting more serious about college and started looking at it more seriously. And when I went up there, I was looking at a few different schools at the time. U of O and University of Arizona were kind of like my final two. And I distinctly remember visiting both campuses, and when I went to the University of Oregon, it had this feeling of welcome to campus, how can I help you, you know, are you guys new, oh, you'll love it here, this is a great place. And it had that kind of family and environment that really drew me to it as compared to some of the other schools where it was a little bit more, I guess, superficial is what it felt like at the time. So that's what drew me to the University of Oregon initially. While I was there, I made a lot of great friends that I still have to this day, and ended up majoring in sociology. So I graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Sociology. It was kind of a roundabout way to get there, but I got there, and it turned out to be a great major for me and what I'm interested in and the type of person I am, and that's how kind of how I ended up at the U of O and what I did while I was there.
Excellent, great. So fast forwarding a little bit more to your current work with LinkedIn and also how you got there, what pointed you into this current work direction?
Yeah, again, another sort of roundabout way to get to LinkedIn, to get into the professional workforce in general. Like I said, I didn't really have any real direction or understanding of where I wanted to be in 5 years or 10 years or even, you know, a year after I got to school. And then once I decided my major about my junior year, I still didn't really have any direction on what I wanted to do with it. I actually, at some point, as I was about to graduate, decided that I wanted to look at a career in law enforcement. I started going through all the protocols, background checks, interviews with the San Jose Police Department, Santa Clara Police Department, started getting down this road, and it didn't really feel, I had some sense that it didn't really feel like it was the right choice for me for whatever reason. Ended up not working out for one reason or the other, and I ended up coaching high school football just in the meantime of this period of my life in 2009, and I was coaching freshman football for a guy that I was actually coached by when I was playing high school football, and he, at the end of the season, realized that I didn't really have anything else going on, so he introduced me to a friend of his who started his own recruiting company here in San Francisco. So I had no idea what recruiting was. I didn't really understand that there was this sort of industry of, recruiters. I've heard the term headhunters before, but didn't really understand what it meant. But I got introduced to it, and it ended up being a recruitment position at a small tech recruiting firm here in San Francisco called Cypress. And once I interviewed with them, once they told me more about it, I realized that it was a position that I thought that would suit kind of who I am and what I'm interested in terms of having conversations with people on a regular basis, getting to know people, figuring out what they want, what they don't want, and kind of matching that up to a customer base that we have in terms of large corporations that are looking to hire talent. So that's how I got into it. It was definitely, I don't want to say right place, right time, but I'd say it's just like knowing people and being open to trying new things and, not really networking because that wasn't what I was doing at 21 or 22. I was just kind of trying to figure it all out, and then I got introduced to this recruiting world, and that's how I landed at Cypress. I was there for 4 years, and at the time I was, working with a client base at that point. I moved into kind of whoa, lights just went out here. Hang on a second.
Sure. This is the real world. This is live.
Right. So I moved into more of an account management role with Cypress, working with clients instead of candidates. And I started working with LinkedIn as a customer, got to know them, got to know their cultures and values, got to kind of understand what it was all like on the inside. And from that point, I started working, not really working, but asking people that I knew that worked at LinkedIn what it's like there, what they do, what their background was. And from that point on, it was kind of like, well, hey, we have a position open. Do you want to, give it a shot? I'm like, sure, why not? Ended up getting the job, and that was 2 years ago, and that's how I got here today. So kind of a longer story, roundabout story, but that's my story.
No, I love it. I think especially as people leave school, they think that this career thing is this specific narrow path that you're supposed to choose and focus on. But I love the fact that, you're sharing, you're willing to share your story about life happening. You have certain ideas, you change your mind. I also love your comment about, you may not have thought about your connections as being strategic networking, but networking, I think, comes in a whole range. There can be very strategic efforts to seek people out, but
right.
networking is also just about being out there, meeting people, having them know what you're about. Not even what you want, but little by little, the network can bring things to you. So I love that story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, your comment about, even before you took a job inside LinkedIn that you talk to people, and by the way, I may not have mentioned specifically, but what's behind David is actually LinkedIn. So, this is one of their offices in downtown San Francisco. I was lucky enough to be able to see David there just a few weeks ago. But now that you've not only talked to people on the inside of LinkedIn, but you've got 2 years, under your belt, what can you share with fellow alumni about what it is like to be LinkedIn?
Sure.
In a way, I almost picture those progressive commercials, what's behind the magic, but, I guess what could you share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great place to work. I encourage anybody who's interested in a job opportunity here to reach out to myself or to anybody at LinkedIn who they might know about job opportunities. This isn't a recruiting pitch. It's just I would recommend it because it's great. From, kind of like the fringe benefits, I think that a lot of Silicon Valley technology companies offer these days, from, the gym inside the building, the lunch, the food, the snacks, the, matched 401k, all this stuff where it's just like that is, those are great, and those are great, perks and benefits. But I think the coolest thing about this company is really the culture and values that we share in terms of, to most accurately describe this, I think it's best if the day I started at LinkedIn we had a kind of a, new hire training, new hire meet and greet, and the VP of Talent Solutions at the time came in, Dan Shapiro, and he talked to us and kind of told us a little bit about LinkedIn, but he told us, he said, I understand and we know that everyone here in this room will not spend the rest of their career here. It's not going to happen. It's not feasible. It might be a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Sometime you're going to leave and move on to another opportunity, another challenge. What we're trying to do here is make you the best version of yourself possible, so when you do leave, you're that much better for that next opportunity. So that right there was a big moment for me where I said, okay, this is an opportunity for me to grow as a person within this organization. And since that point, I started looking at the company a little bit differently, and it does feel like almost like a college environment in the sense that we don't have keggers on Thursdays, but in the sense that I think it's an opportunity and it's a place where you can grow as a person because of the values that are shared by the large amount of employees here. I think we're up to like 7,000, 8,000 employees worldwide, but every time you come in contact with somebody that you maybe haven't met before from another business unit or whatever it may be, they're extremely helpful, extremely sincere, wacky, goofy, funny, but extremely bright, intelligent, strong communication skills, and everybody is trying to grow as a person and grow their respective business as a unit. But I think that was something that I'd noticed where it was like, it's got this vibe, it's got this kind of buzz of excitement and, learning new things and trying new things and seeing what works, what doesn't, that I compare to, my years at the U of O.
Excellent. Great. Thanks.
Yeah.
So now that we have a sense of what it's like to be on LinkedIn, I'd love you to talk a little bit more about what you do. So what goes on into go into maybe some detail about what your work entails, but what your day is filled like. I think this may also be a good time. I think you had shared with me you work with a lot of recruiters who use LinkedIn as a platform too for their work. So this could be helpful to go into some detail about.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you see me? My computer.
Yep.
So my official title is relationship manager. It is basically an account management role with a little different title, obviously. But my role is to work with search and staffing clients, recruiting clients that have come on as a corporate client with one of our premium search products. So these search products might be a recruitment tool for enhanced search, a job posting or a job slot as we call them, to post positions that they're working on, to work on their company's branding and marketing aspects to gain more business and more viewership on LinkedIn. So I work with them, and my role is essentially a sales role as much as it is a customer education and customer success role, but my job is to renew all of our clients with what they came on with, and then hopefully add some growth to their product suite and essentially more bottom line revenue for LinkedIn as a company. So it is very much a sales role. I do have a quota that I measured on quarterly and yearly. We are on the phone a lot. We are meeting with clients in person. I was up in Seattle. Usually I try to meet my clients around a game. So I was up in Seattle last weekend and I tied some client visits into that and saw the Huskies go down for, I think that's 12 in a row. So that was a fun trip. But it's cool to be in staffing and recruiting and remain within search and staffing and kind of lend my, some might call it expertise, some of my customers don't call it expertise, but my knowledge on the business on the other side of the fence, kind of working as a consultant to search and staffing firms.
Excellent, great. And so maybe this is also where some of the, this may be a good time for you to share some of the insights that you've gleaned from some of these customers about what they expect from people's LinkedIn profiles, or how people should set up their profiles so that they're more usable for some of these staffing folks. At this point, let me also try to pass you the ball, as it were, so that you should be able to share your screen. So as you talk, I'll try to figure that out.
Absolutely. So I think something to keep in mind when we're talking about search and staffing customers and recruiting folks that are on LinkedIn, they are looking for people that match their specific job requirements or job needs. So a lot of what they do is based on searching and searching keywords and finding people on a network or a job board or wherever it may be, going to a networking event and kind of figuring out what they do. So what I would say is there's two different ways that you can think about your LinkedIn profile depending on what type of position you're currently in. If you're in the position where you want to start looking for a job and you want to, network a little bit more and you want to be more open to being found, then we would develop your profile a different way than somebody would if they were happy with where they are but wanted to give some people some insight into what they do, whether that's a customer base that they might be trying to tap into. We architect that profile a little bit differently than we would if you're looking for a job actively. So what I would say, if it looks like I do have the ball now.
Yeah.
I have some examples here. I don't know, can you see my screen right now? I just have my profile up.
Let's see, not yet. You may have to go under the share.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Share folder and tell the program which.
Okay,
yep.
Cool.
Actually, I see something coming on now.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right. So here's my profile where it's got, I think, a different take, and it's talking to my audience being customers, potential clients, where I'm saying, this is what I do, this is how I can help you. I lean heavily on my experience, kind of the same story that I was telling everybody here. Develop strategic plans for social media recruitment, educate clients on best practices, create awareness. So it's not so much I am a quota-carrying salesperson that achieved these metrics year after year. It's not really in the resume light. But if we looked at some other profiles, and I'm trying to think of some that might make sense, and not to say that anybody here is looking, but they are more detailed, and by doing that, they're more searchable. So I would say if you are currently looking for a position, whether you're just starting out your job search as a new grad, or you're starting to beef up your profile a little bit, what I would do if you're in that group is look at job descriptions that you're interested in, and then start curtailing your profile and curtailing your resume with the similar verbiage that you're seeing, because those are words that my client base is searching on a regular basis. So the more you can add in terms of, if I'm looking for a sales position, I'm going to put quota and attained and achieved and sales process and things like that, but I want to interweave it obviously in a coherent, readable way. But if you're looking for a recruiting position, obviously recruit, sourcing candidates, full cycle recruiting, things like that, you're going to be able to be found a lot faster and be reached out to by these search and staffing folks that are on LinkedIn. If we're looking, again, to kind of have a balance between the two, I think that's easily achievable. If we look at, these are all Oregon grads, by the way. I thought that'd be kind of cool to see what these guys are doing.
That's awesome.
Kwesi works at LinkedIn. He graduated from University of Oregon, but he has, kind of a story, kind of a summary on who he is, what he does, what he's all about. I'm passionate about people, teamwork, building lasting relationships. My role at LinkedIn is to be responsible for the guy. So he's doing it in a way where he can be found if somebody's looking for a salesperson, or if somebody's looking for a representative for their company. Prospects is in here, pipeline, these sort of keywords that would be searched. but he's also telling a story about who he is, how he can help his current client base, and he's kind of marketing himself to both audiences. I think that's the biggest takeaway that I would harp on in this conversation is think about who your audience is in the situation you're currently in. If your audience is employers and recruiters and people that you want to interview with and work for, then we'd like to probably have our resume or profile, in this case, have the look and feel of a resume, I guess. But if we're on the other side and we're comfortable and we're happy and we're trying to maybe just market ourselves as a person to work with, then we'd want to kind of tell more of a story, be a little bit more softer, explain who we are, how we can do our job, and how we can help. But if you're somewhere in the middle, like I think most people are once they get into the workforce, there's a blend that you can work with, and I think Kwesi's got a great example here.
Excellent. Great. And you know, Dave, you've given us some good practices, you know, data mine job postings and make sure our profiles connect with those job postings and keywords. So those are really helpful. Maybe looking at the other side of the coin, are there things we should avoid doing? Are there things that are maybe more negatively viewed or turnoffs for some of the recruiters who are trying to do their job, and certain things people do aren't very effective or actually might inhibit their searchability? So
there's not much, I would say, honestly, that could negatively hurt you off the top and this initial search, I should say. What I will say is if you try to get too, you know, too cute or too, you know, different or too funny, you're never going to be found by anybody. Sounds like there's a little static on the line. I don't know if everybody's on mute, but if you could just mute really quickly.
Yeah. So, okay, I think someone muted. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
We appreciate that.
So I guess what I would say is just don't get too tricky or too cute with your profile. I see a lot of people nowadays, maybe they don't want to be found, and that's fine, but their profile might say something like ninja or like coding, whatever it is. Like I think ninja is a term, especially in the Silicon Valley, where it's like I'm the best at whatever it is I do, coding ninja, recruiting ninja, whatever it is. But I don't think a lot of recruiters, maybe the savvy ones, are searching coding ninja. But if we're going to change our title to, you know, something totally different than what those job descriptions that you might be interested in or those type of roles you want to be in down the line say in their job title, it's going to be hard to be found and match up for that. With that, in your kind of story, in your summary, I think there's a lot people can do to build their personal brand and professional brand. But again, wouldn't want you to get too long-winded or too you know, tricky in terms of what you're saying. I'd like to keep it as professional, but show them your personality as much as possible. So it's that nice blend. I hope that answers the question in a useful way.
Absolutely, I think so. You know, so and you also make me think of something that may appear kind of small and simple, but I think has a potential for a big impact. You know, most everything on a LinkedIn profile is data, is fact, other than your profile picture, or other than the cover that some people are now putting on there. What advice do you have for people in terms of their profile picture? Which one do they choose, and are there things that you would recommend people avoid?
Yeah, I think there's been articles about this in the past, and I think it's most of them do ring true, where you want something that is a clear picture. It's just you. It's not, you know, 2 or 3 other people in the picture. You know, it's a clean headshot. It doesn't have to be professionally done. I don't think a lot of, like Andrew's here, it looks like he cropped it, but it's still a strong profile picture. Pictures where there's like, glasses on the table, whatever they are, if you're at dinner, it's not, I think, you don't want to draw all the attention to the picture. It's like, oh, this person looks like this, or this person looks like that. You just want it to be kind of straightforward, easy, and then they move on to, what's really important and what you've done and what you're currently doing.
Perfect, great. Every so often I see some pictures that look like they should belong on Facebook, and just having people realize this is a very different platform with a different audience. So your guidance is very helpful. Maybe another tip maybe you can offer. Oftentimes people like to use LinkedIn in order to be more strategic in their networking. So they find someone in an organization of interest that they may not know otherwise, or they're looking for someone who maybe it's another duck who follows a very who has had a career path that they want to follow. Do you have any tips on how to be more effective at strategically researching or reaching out to some of these people of interest?
Yeah, I would. If you're looking at somebody's profile and you've never met them and you're trying to network online, essentially, what I would say is always try to find a common factor between your profile and theirs. It's easy enough, but I think a lot of people will just reach out and tell them a little story about who they are and what they're interested in and leave it at that. I think you've got to make this message or this, tap on the shoulder relevant. Oh, lights went out again. 1 second.
Sure.
So you got to make sure that this message is relevant to the person you reach out to. So if your commonality is that you both went to the University of Oregon, I would start it with Go Ducks, or sign it with Go Ducks, or hey, I saw you went to the University of Oregon. I graduated 2008, officially 2009, and I wanted to reach out because I'm interested in networking with people in the whatever space that they might be in. So now we've got two relevant points to this person, University of Oregon and whatever space that they're in, that tie that message and carry some weight. When we're reaching out to people, and I tell my clients this too, we're reaching out to candidates and they're tapping them on the shoulder and they're saying, hey, got this great opportunity, like let me know if you're interested, here's a job description, like get back to me. That's literally like tapping somebody on the shoulder at a networking event and say, hey, I see that you work, do you want a job? It's like there's not really warming up the conversation, they're not really making it relevant to this person, but it's like, hey, I see that you're in the fintech space, I'm actually working with one of the top one of the top fintech employers in the Bay Area, and I was wondering if you're interested in, talking about that. Okay, fintech, he lives in the Bay Area, she lives in the Bay Area, and then we have, a conversation. So two relevant points right there. So make sure that we're talking about some commonalities before we start, talking about, asking about what you want.
No, that's great. I think sometimes people do think for some reason that just because the interaction is electronic that they can just simply cut to the chase and drop things. But I think we are all people and we like flow and we like relationships. So. Yeah. One other point I thought I would make, and then maybe also another question for you, David. A point I wanted to make is I hope all the viewers of this webinar are already members of the University of Oregon LinkedIn group. There, of course, is the University of Oregon education page, which allows you to get lots of data about our graduates and our friends, in aggregate. But one of the main benefits of the University of Oregon group, which is limited to U of O students, alumni, faculty, and staff, is that once you're a member, and currently we're just over 20,000 members, but once you're a member, you're able to send a message directly to that person without being a first-degree connection. Otherwise, you have to maybe stick with in-mail or a connection request. But once again, everyone should join the U of O LinkedIn group because it does facilitate communication. On the subject of reaching out, David, your question, at what point does it make sense to you to reach out for a connection? Is it okay to to ask for a connection request when you've never met them, or if you haven't met them and it's still okay, how do you do it so it's more likely that someone will accept your connection request? Any advice on that?
So that's a good question. I would, in the second question, I always reach out to people. I always connect with people on LinkedIn when I've had some sort of interaction with them. I think, James, you and I are connected on LinkedIn. You know, a lot of my clients, after I meet with them or speak with them on the phone, I've connected with them on LinkedIn. When you don't have that relationship with them, I think, again, the only real kind of way that, not necessarily the appropriate, but the way that you're going to gain some ground and the way that you're going to, you know, stand out and get that connection is if you mention something about them that is relevant to that person. So again, if you share the same group, if you, you know, went to the same school, if you knew somebody that worked at one of their previous companies that they worked at, oh, you know, I actually didn't work at, you know, Trulia, but, you know, a friend of a friend named, did you know him? I actually was interested in learning more about opportunities or what it was like to work there. Do you have any, you know, time or whatever it may be? But again, I'd make sure that there's a point in there that's relevant to that person when you're reaching out. If you're just going to send a, I want to connect with you on LinkedIn and hope that, you know, your picture and your profile kind of do the trick, I don't think a lot of people are going to accept that invitation based on, you know, just, you know, who you are, where you live, what your merits are. I think you need to kind of make sure it's relevant and compelling to that person.
Excellent.
I hope that answers your question, David.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And on that subject, what I might say is that I think different people have different philosophies about who they accept connections from.
Yeah.
So, you know, for people who are watching, you know, don't be offended if people don't connect with you because of exactly what David just shared. If you haven't had some interaction with them, some people are very protective about their connections and may not accept you just simply because they don't know you. But going back to David's earlier point, if you at least establish some sort of rapport in your connection request, or in some cases, I would say wait on the connection request. Try maybe some old school tactics of reaching out, finding a mutual contact, getting someone to introduce you outside of a LinkedIn request. You know, not only will you end up getting that connection, but you'll actually have a relationship with the person that you're interested in. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, another example really quickly, just, I mean, if you can't find really anything to reference in their profile, if they're a group, I think now more people are publishing articles on LinkedIn. If you can read that, reference it in the note, obviously you're going to get some, make some headway there. And then if all else fails, but you are a degree or I guess essentially a degree away from somebody in terms of connection path on LinkedIn, I would mention that person and say, hey, I saw that, you know, you're connected to Sarah. I actually went to school with Sarah. She's great. I was actually hoping to network with you as well about the same sort of thing that you're interested in, whatever it may be. So two different ideas there if you're trying to look for something to grasp onto.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, David. I'll ask one more question, and then I can check in with Mike to see if any questions have come in. But one of them is just maybe more broadly about social media and social networking. You know, beyond just LinkedIn, the LinkedIn platform. Do you have any general advice or best practices for people who are trying to figure out, for example, what you mentioned about your online brand or your presence across all social media?
Yeah. So what I would first say is to make sure you're on the right platform first and foremost. If you are looking for professional contacts, LinkedIn would be the place to find that audience. If you're looking for a more broader audience, maybe Twitter is where you want to go. If you're looking to, you know, get back in touch with high school classmates or, you know, friends and family, then Facebook would be kind of where you'd want to go for that. If you're into photography, Instagram, obviously. So make sure we're talking or we're on the right platform for the audience that you want to be in front of. And then from that point, I would do things in terms of, if we're going to talk on Twitter, so to speak, make sure that we're posting things on Twitter that are relevant to every aspect of that audience, and we're not shutting out half the audience that you're trying to talk to with some sort of alienating post. One or two or three people might like that out of the 3,000 people basically in that group that you're trying to broadcast to. So when you're posting things on social media, be thoughtful about who's going to be reading this, who you want to read this, where you want to get a reaction from. And if it is like a very kind of like, I don't know if this is something I should say or something that I want this audience to see, then I would either ask somebody that you trust and say, hey, what do you think that the online design community would think about this article I'm going to post on architecture in kind of a more of a general term. Do you think they find that? Yeah, sure, I think that's worth posting. Okay, great. The other thing I would say is that you're not going to completely alienate your audience with some post like that if you follow it up with something else that's outside of that world the next time. But I think this goes without saying, and I wouldn't be a knucklehead, and I wouldn't put anything offensive or stupid, or because that is, I think everybody knows that at this point. It's out there. It's out there forever, and if you do something like that, you're going to look like a jerk, and it's going to take a lot to come back from that, and no amount of apologies or social media follow-up posts is going to change that. It's going to be hard, so I thought I'd mention that as well.
It's important to say. So sometimes people think that it's a private conversation, but you're absolutely right. Once it's out there, it is not only public, but it is almost impossible to remove.
Yeah, and sometimes even people that I know really well, like my family, my dad's got really into Facebook lately, and he starts, sharing the things that say share, or you're gonna, live 1,000 lives of whatever, and it's like, Dad, what are you doing? It's just, or he'll make some political statement, and it's like, okay, maybe your friends and family in this area think that's cool or you like that, but you just alienated 500 other million people that have access to that, post. So I'd recommend staying away from anything like that too. Dad,
great. Excellent. Great. Sure. So let me just check with Mike. Any questions come in? No? Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, this is part one of our time with David, where it's more of me having a conversation with him. Hopefully all of you who are online right now will also shift to our next platform for the virtual networking, so that you can either have a one-on-one instant message chat with David, or you can be in a separate room where you have a chance to just instant message chat with other ducks who are interested in social media, LinkedIn, or just getting to know other people. So I think I've got one final question for David before I wrap up. And so it's more general about just career journey so far. I think you were kind enough to share your story about transitioning from school to your first job, and then finding your way into staffing before getting into LinkedIn. And the nice part is when you look back, oh my gosh, it's actually kind of, it makes sense, right?
Right.
But I would love to just get your impression about your reflection about just the job search process. What have you learned about it from your experience? And as you start looking at your next career step, it may not be for another year, 5, or whatever, but what do you think you'll hold on to that will hopefully help you be more comfortable with the next transition, or be more successful in your next career transition?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think looking back, I didn't really have a plan, didn't really have a direction. I do remember, though, when I did, have my heart set on, being involved in law enforcement and had that planned out, and it didn't happen, I was, fairly discouraged and let down and upset. and one thing led to another, and it is true what they say. It sounds cliche, but one door opens and another, or one door closes and another door opens. So I would say, looking back, as I'm, kind of seeing how I meandered to where I am now, I didn't think that this recruiting thing would ever turn into a career of any sort, and I think having, an understanding that you don't want to put yourself in a box or, put, kind of rails on the road as you're kind of figuring it all out. So I would suggest being open to trying new things that you might not necessarily have thought of before. If you know somebody in the industry and you're friends with that person, or you have some sort of relationship with them, take a chance. You'll probably have some commonalities that will hold over into a professional setting too. So if they're working it, maybe you could do it too, and maybe this is a light to some other area that you never thought of. So that's, I think, what the advice I would give, take it for what it's worth, is if you're coming out of school, or if you're trying to kind of figure out what you want to do, I wouldn't plan so hard that there's no real way in or out of something else. That's what I was. If you're in a different position and you do have a position now, or a current job, for me, the transition was actually fairly hard to make from, being at this small boutique staffing agency for 4.5 years and coming to a big, larger organization like LinkedIn. The transition was tough. Like, I thought, I wasn't going to be able to cut it. I didn't know if this was the right role for me. But I think you got to trust yourself and trust in what you're doing. But in the end, I think, I'm kind of babbling here, but I would say trust yourself, but don't, like I said, put yourself in a box or put rails on the road when you're figuring out where you want to end up.
Sounds good. Makes a lot of sense, and I would say there's many folks who are several more years out of school than you, who I think are still trying to figure it out. I think for many of us, it's that journey, not a destination, of figuring out what it is that we want to do.
Yeah.
So with that, David, again, I can't thank you enough for letting us pick your brain and hear about what you do and the advice that you can give others. I look forward to seeing you again in San Francisco sometime soon.
Yeah.
Again, I just look forward to keeping in touch. With that, I want to thank all the attendees of this webinar live. Thank you for making time out of your busy day. A recording of this webinar will be available in about a week or so, and for those who have registered, you'll get an email notifying you of its availability. I also want to mention that in a day or so, you'll also receive an email follow-up, and I really appreciate your feedback about what you thought of this webinar, this technology, this platform. Definitely take your input to heart. And also, for those of you who might be interested in sharing your story, if you have some advice and you want to be one of these ducks who help ducks like David, we would be thrilled to spotlight you in a future webinar, or if we come to your part of the country or world, have you speak as part of a panel, or just simply share your advice via a career blog or a career profile. So all of that we can't thank you enough for. So thank you for being here. Thank you, David, once again in San Francisco, me here in Eugene, Mike Smith also behind the scenes. I will close this event, and a window will automatically pop up on your screen, which will take you to this virtual networking space. If you've registered, sign in, join a room, and David will be in one room and others will be in another room. And again, thanks for representing all of us Ducks so well. Have a great day, and go Ducks! Thanks, David.
Thanks, James.